Hello and welcome to yet another video, and in this video it is something very different than usual because in this video I'll be talking about this compact film camera right here. That's right, I don't usually talk about compact film cameras. Actually, not a lot of compact cameras in my videos at all, but this is one of the very few ones because it's a camera that I personally got for free and it's been available for a very low price, at least in my secondhand market here in Northern Europe for quite a while now, and it's one that I feel like I should probably share with y'all if you like film photography and like to go smaller. Just to give you a little background, I'm coming from the Mamiya 645 series, the EOS 1, the EOS 50E, the Nikonos series, so I usually shoot with interchangeable lenses, like film cameras, and this is something kind of new, but it's also not really my proper field of interest. So with that out of the way, now you probably know where I'm coming from, so without further ado, let's get into the video. So the Minolta Riva Zoom 140EX, that's still a mouthful. This is a compact camera, and even though it's not as small as, let's say, those compact cameras from GR film style compact cameras that you can actually fit in your pocket, this is actually a super zoom lens compact camera. That's why it is actually kind of big compared to a traditional compact cameras. And talking about the super zoom, this has the 38 to 140 millimeter focal range, and that's the equivalent to the 35 millimeter focal range anyway, and when you do zoom in, your viewfinder actually zooms in as well. And talking about the viewfinder, this is quite a small viewfinder, and it is kind of a rangefinder viewfinder in the way that it is not what the lens is seeing. There is a marking in there that kind of marks roughly what the lens is seeing, but you have to kind of keep in mind that the final picture will be slightly bigger than that frame line just for safety measures, and that was a very common practice for those cameras back in the days. This camera was released, I think, in around mid-1990s, so around 1995, I think, around that period. So yeah, and it also has this really plasticky feel to it, but with the plastic construction, it's also very light and small camera overall, and you can just kind of squeeze it into the side of your messenger bag or your rucksack or backpack. Yeah, but you won't really be able to fit inside most of your jeans pocket, and unless you have a really huge jeans pocket, it will just look really, really weird if you try to just squeeze it inside there. So yeah, there is that. But otherwise, just as usual, I'll be breaking this video down into 3 different sections. I'll be talking about the first section, which is the ergonomics and the operational side of things, and then going into the image quality and then into the conclusion. So let's first start with the actual ergonomics and the usability. The usability of this camera is actually quite straightforward. So with the on button right there, that's pretty much the loudest noise that you'll actually hear from this camera is the lens coming off. And talking about the lens, when you try to zoom in, so anything that to do with the lens, yes, it looks really ridiculous right now, but whenever you try to zoom with this lens, that's the only sound that you actually hear quite loud, because when you actually try to take pictures with it, let me just show you. Yeah, that's another sound. So the actual shutter sound is actually very silent, and then the rewinder or the winder is also actually quite silent for this kind of camera as well. Yes, there is still that motorized sounding, but it's actually quite well, you can actually get away with that sound if you're shooting street, for example, because when you're shooting streets out there and there's all this street sound around you, you don't really hear the actual shutter winding that loud anyway, so that's actually quite nice. This camera also has a very nice, well, when I say very nice, it's just a very standard AF assist lamp right there. If you want to shoot in the dark, it will actually illuminate that. But what's really annoying about this camera is that every time you power on, the flash is set to auto, and every time I have to actually go and press no flash on this particular camera. The lens, even though I don't know the precise iris in there or the precise aperture blades in there, it's actually not too dark and not too bright either. So when you're shooting outdoor in bright sunlight or in normal daylight condition, you don't really need flashes, but if you forgot to turn that off, in a lot of cases it will actually automatically fire flash. So that's actually kind of annoying. And talking about this kind of front area operation system. The focusing on this camera is very snappy, although it tends to back focus a lot. A lot of times, especially when I'm zooming into my subject, whether it's the trees or human, a lot of time it tries to focus in the background more than in the foreground. I'm not talking about like I might be too close to my subject that it will automatically just try to pick the furthest point. No, sometimes I'm literally over 10 meters away from my subject and try to focus on the tree branch, but it will focus on the building behind that tree branch. And that tree branch wasn't really that big anyway, sorry, wasn't that small anyway. It's just, yeah, sometimes it just tries to back focus more than front focus. So there is that. But in most cases, when you try to use it at the wide angle, it will get the subject mostly in focus, at least your intended subjects, like your human, your food, what have you. It'll be in focus around 70% of the time. The other 30%, it will just try to back focus. So just keep that in mind when focusing with this camera. Just maybe just, you know, double focus it or triple focus it so that maybe it will change the focus a little bit in there. So yeah, there is that. But otherwise, the lens itself is kind of fast enough zooming. I'll talk about the quality of the optics later in the image quality section, but the zooming action is actually quite, you know, fast enough. It gets the job done. It does take a little while to get to 140 millimeters, but you know, you're not really too slow either. But I find that 38 millimeters is a little bit too tight. I wish that it would maybe have started at around 25 millimeters or 20 millimeters or maybe even 28 millimeters versus 38 millimeters, because it's kind of a weird wide focal range to me. But it was semi-standards to start at around 35, 38 millimeters for many compact film cameras that had longer zoom lenses at that period of time. So there is that. What you lose on the wide end, you gain on the telephoto end. So for a lot of people who are going to be traveling a lot with this type of camera, then this could be an advantage because they can actually zoom into many details out there. So yeah, there is that. Moving out to the control section, it's just very simple control. You just get your drive mode, your modes, and the flash mode, and your, you know, self-timer mode. You can even have your macro focusing enabled if you want to, although it's not really that close, just saying. And to the back, you just have a simple on-off button and the zooming lever there, so that's actually quite simple enough. And to the side is where you actually release the lock. I have a film in there right now, but yeah, you can actually open it quite easily and insert the film in there quite easily. This camera, it actually has a very nice winding system. So a lot of compact cameras that I worked with in the past, which is actually not that much, but quite a few of them, they can't really rewind all of them very smoothly. Sometimes they will skip an image or two, and that has caused a little bit of, you know, time wasting in the past, because I would have to like unroll that film and then re-roll it back, reload it back to the camera itself for it to load every single film. But because this camera, it starts right away from the first image and it will just keep on rolling until it finishes the film, it doesn't really skip an image, and when it rewinds back, it actually rewinds back quite nicely. So that's pretty good to know about this particular camera. So it's very reliable on that front as well. So yeah, there is that. But otherwise, it's a very compact camera. I really enjoy using it. The grip is not too slippery, even though it's a plasticky feel camera. I think it is good enough that it's, you know, not going to be broken when you try to squeeze it, or it's going to be broken when you try to put it inside to the lowest compartment of your backpack, things like that. So it is well built enough. It's just quite plasticky for the mid-90s cameras, well, just like many other mid-90s cameras as well. So yeah, there is that. Now over into the image quality. Well, the image quality of this camera is actually quite nice from the lens, because again, it also depends on the film that you have in here. The film roll really dictates, you know, the film look that you will have at the end of the day, but the lens coming out of this camera is actually quite warm, on the warm side, and there's very little amount of chromatic aberration, but there is a little bit of vignetting and distortion. Just keep that in mind, because it is a compact camera lens, and also it's a lens that has a super zoom, so it has to average out every focal lengths. So that's the auto turn off. I didn't turn it off, but that's the auto turn off. There is the basic coating on there, and I think the coating is actually quite nice when working with super contrast condition, because you're not getting a lot of color fringing. There is still some color fringing, just not a lot of it, and you are still getting that very nice soft kind of look that you traditionally would get out of these compact cameras back then anyway. It's not super sharp. Let's say if you're shooting with an SLR, the EOS 1, the EOS 3000, the Nikon F1, F2, F3, what have you, those cameras will be able to deliver much sharper results. But when shooting with these compact cameras, well, this kind of compact cameras, yeah, you're just gonna get that slightly soft images out of yeah, your film rolls or your results, really, because of the lenses being that kind of average out performance. But otherwise, it's been a very fun camera to shoot with, and also a camera that delivers really great results, assuming you can actually get over the fact that it's, you know, really great results for compact cameras at the time. It's not a Contax G2, it's not going to be that sharp, but it is a very nice nostalgic look out of this type of camera. So yeah, there is that. When you do zoom in, apart from the autofocusing system that I talked about earlier, the image will just be that consistent sharp, well, soft sharp-ish throughout, and the distortion will change throughout the lens due to physics, of course. But yeah, otherwise I would actually definitely highly recommend this camera for the image quality, which kind of leads me nicely into the conclusion. Well, to conclude, I really like this camera a lot. I definitely liked it a lot more than when I originally worked with it, because I have this camera on my shelf, sitting on my shelf since 2014, I think, or 2015, and I never really used it until this year. And to be honest, I quite enjoy using it, and I quite understand it better now that, you know, sometimes it's just nice to have the look out of this type of camera and have the simplicity rather than always carrying the SLR, the film SLR with different lenses, because this is actually very light, very portable, and it offers different kind of fun. Yes, the image quality is not as sharp, and I cannot be as creative with manual modes because this doesn't have full manual mode, or you can't really control a lot of things on this camera either. So yeah, sometimes it's just nice to let the camera decide a lot of things for you, and this camera does have a very accurate metering system, especially in the daylight system or daylight settings. So yeah, there is that. And it's a camera that I think it's also a very versatile camera to have, especially if you're traveling a lot. I do wish that it would be a bit wider, especially if you're traveling to another city. But if you're traveling to, let's say, landscape places where there are a lot of mountains, or like you're traveling to the beach, things like that, then this is a nice compact camera to actually have with you, because it allows you to zoom into so many details, and 38mm would still be quite wide for those scenarios. So yeah, there is that. I wouldn't recommend it if you want a camera that delivers super sharp results and really accurate focusing system, because this doesn't have that, but it's kind of like a nice little snappy camera at the end. So yeah, there is that. I'll leave it there. It's been quite an interesting experience so far. If you need a free photography guidebook, it's absolutely for free on my website. The link is down in the description section below. So it has some of my free photography videos as well, photography guide videos. So yeah, I thank you all very much for watching. Stay safe, have fun shooting. Till next time, bye for now.